Christmas is supposed to be a time of joy and safety, but for these three people, it turned into a nightmare they will never forget. Here are 3 true Christmas horror stories.
I lived alone in a small house at the edge of town, where the streets went quiet early and the snow seemed to swallow every sound. Christmas week had just started, and the neighborhood felt emptier than usual, almost abandoned. That night, I came home late from work, parking in my driveway just after midnight. As I stepped out of my car, I noticed something strange in the snow near my front lawn. There were footprints leading from the sidewalk straight toward my living room window. They stopped just a few feet from the glass, as if whoever made them had stood there for a long time. I stood there longer than I should have, staring at them and trying to explain it away. I told myself it was probably a neighbor or someone cutting across my yard. Still, something about how the footprints ended made my skin crawl. There were no prints leading away. Inside the house, I locked the door and pulled the curtains closed. I tried to laugh at myself, reminding myself it was Christmas and people did stupid things this time of year. The next morning, I woke up early and went straight to the window. More footprints had appeared overnight. This time, directly beneath my bedroom window, they were fresh. I could tell because the edges hadn't softened yet. Whoever had been there was close enough that they could have looked right into my room. I felt that slow, sinking fear settle into my chest. I called in sick to work and stayed home all day, watching the yard through small gaps in the curtains. As evening came, the snow started falling again, thick and heavy. By nightfall, it erased all the footprints, making the yard look clean and untouched. I tried to convince myself that was the end of it. I turned on the porch light before bed, hoping it would scare anyone away. Sometime after 2 in the morning, I woke up suddenly. I didn't know why at first, but my heart was already racing. Then I heard footsteps crunching through snow outside. Slow, heavy, purposeful. They stopped right outside my bedroom window. I held my breath, afraid that even moving would give me away. I heard a soft sound like fabric brushing against glass. Someone was right there. Eventually, the footsteps retreated. I didn't sleep after that. In the morning, I found deep footprints beneath my window again. Beside them were 2 clear handprints pressed into the snow. It looked like someone had leaned forward, palms down, trying to peer inside while I slept. I called the police that afternoon. They walked around the house, took notes, and told me there wasn't much they could do. That night, I left every light on in the house. The Christmas tree blinked softly in the corner, mocking how scared I felt. Just before midnight, the motion light outside snapped on. My stomach dropped instantly. From the hallway, I saw a tall shadow standing in the yard. Someone was there, facing my house. They didn't move, they didn't hide. They just stood there, like they knew I was watching. Slowly, the figure raised an arm and waved. Not friendly, not rushed, just slow and deliberate. I called the police while watching them turn and walk away, leaving a perfect trail of footprints behind. Christmas Eve came and I refused to leave the house. That night, snow fell hard, covering everything again. Around 3 in the morning, I heard a knock at the front door. Soft, polite. "I know you're awake," a calm voice said through the door. My blood turned cold. "I just wanted to wish you a Merry Christmas," the voice continued, almost amused. I locked myself in the bathroom and called the police again. When morning came, the yard was covered in smooth, untouched snow except for one thing. A single set of footprints leading up to my front door. There were no footprints leading away. I moved out 2 days later. Even now, when Christmas comes and the snow falls, I still feel like someone is standing outside, watching my house from the dark.
I worked the closing shift at a clothing store inside a suburban mall, and during December it always felt overwhelming. Christmas music echoed through the halls, lights reflected off shiny floors, and by the end of the night my head was pounding. Every year, the mall hired a Santa Claus who sat near the food court. He looked thinner than most mall Santas, older too, with a beard that didn't quite hide the sharp lines of his face. The first time, I noticed him watching me. I didn't think much of it. Customers stared all the time, especially when they were bored or waiting. But after a few nights, it became impossible to ignore. Every time I walked past his area to get to the employee exit, his eyes followed me. His smile never changed, but his eyes didn't match it. They weren't warm or playful. They were studying me. One night as I walked by, he leaned forward slightly in his chair. "Working late again?" he asked. I stopped walking. I had never told him my schedule. I forced a laugh and kept moving. telling myself he probably said that to everyone. A few days later, my shift ran later than usual. The mall closed early and most of the stores were dark. As I walked toward the exit, I noticed Santa's chair was empty. For a moment, I felt relieved. Then I heard footsteps behind me. They were slow and heavy, not rushed like someone trying to leave. When I glanced over my shoulder, I saw Santa walking several yards behind me. He was still in full costume. The red suit looked darker in the dim light, and his beard was slightly crooked. Stopped near a closed jewelry store and pretended to adjust my shoe. He stopped too. "Long day," he said casually. I nodded and kept walking. When I turned down a side hallway that led only to storage rooms, he followed. My heart started pounding. I stopped and faced him. "Is something wrong?" I asked. "You remind me of someone," he said. "Someone special." I told him I was late and pushed through the exit door. Cold air hit my face as I ran to my car. Before driving away, I looked back. Santa was standing near the door watching me leave. That night, I barely slept. I told my roommate what happened, but she laughed it off. The next evening, I left work early. As I crossed the parking lot, I felt that familiar sensation of being watched. I heard footsteps. Crunching behind me, I got into my car and locked the doors. Before I could start the engine, someone knocked on my window. Santa was standing there, bent down to look inside. Sweat soaked the edge of his beard. "Merry Christmas," he said softly. I sped out of the parking lot, hands shaking on the wheel. On Christmas Eve, my roommate left to stay with her boyfriend. I was alone in the apartment. Around midnight, someone knocked on the door. Through the peephole, I saw red fabric. "I brought you something," he said calmly. I asked how he found me. He laughed softly. "Santa knows where everyone lives," he said. When I didn't open the door, his knocking grew harder. He tried the handle. I locked myself in my bedroom and called the police. I could hear him moving around outside. "Come out," he called. "It's Christmas." When police arrived, the hallway was empty. No Santa, no gift. Later, I learned the mall had fired their Santa that afternoon. He had given them a fake name and address. They never found him. Even now, when I see someone dressed as Santa, my chest tightens. And every Christmas Eve, I make sure my doors are locked, listening for a knock that I pray never comes. Christmas Eve at my parents' house was always chaotic. The living room was packed with people, wrapping paper everywhere, voices overlapping, and laughter bouncing off the walls that night. The snow was falling lightly outside, just enough to coat the yard and make everything glow under the streetlights. Inside, the house felt safe, loud, and alive. My dad had set up his old video camera in the corner of the living room. He recorded every holiday, adjusting the tripod so it could capture us opening presents. We locked the front door out of habit. But the back door was another story. People kept stepping outside all evening, and at some point, someone forgot to lock it. We were halfway through, opening gifts when the power suddenly went out. The room went dark except for the glow of the Christmas tree lights. Everyone groaned and laughed nervously. Someone joked about the timing, and for a moment, it felt like part of the holiday. Chaos. Then we heard a noise from the back of the house. A dull thud followed by a faint scraping sound. My mom froze, holding a half-opened present in her hands. The room slowly went quiet. My dad stood up and said he would check it out. I remember feeling a sudden wave of dread as he walked toward the hallway. Before he could reach it, we heard footsteps. Heavy ones, moving slowly toward us. "Hello?" my dad called out. There was no answer. The footsteps stopped. A figure appeared at the far end of the hallway. A man wearing dark clothes, his face partially hidden by a scarf. In his hand was something long and metallic. It took a moment for me to realize it was a crowbar. None of us screamed. We just stared, trying to understand what was happening. "Stay where you are," the man said calmly. My mom pulled my younger sister close, shielding her instinctively. My heart felt like it was trying to beat its way out of my chest. "What do you want?" my dad asked, his voice tight. The man glanced around the room at the presents, the tree and the camera still recording. "Bad timing," he said. Then another man stepped into view behind him. Taller, broader, his face fully covered. The second man quietly shut the back door and locked it. The first man told us to put our phones on the floor. One by one, we obeyed. The second man moved down the hallway, checking rooms while the first stayed with us. The Christmas music was still playing softly on the TV, making everything feel unreal. The first man told us to keep opening our presents. His eyes never left us. My hands shook as I tore wrapping paper from a box. Around me, my family did the same. They commented when something looked valuable and lost interest when it didn't. Then my little sister started crying. Loud, uncontrollable sobs. The man snapped at her to be quiet. My mom stood up, begging him to stop. The man raised the crowbar slightly, just enough to silence the room. That's when my dad lunged. He grabbed a heavy decoration from the mantel and threw it. It hit the intruder's head, and everything exploded into chaos. The second man rushed back into the room. Screaming filled the house. I ducked behind the couch as the crowbar hit the floor. With a loud crash, saw my dad slammed against the wall. He cried out in pain. Without thinking, I grabbed the video camera and swung it as hard as I could. It hit the second man's shoulder. He cursed and turned toward me. I was sure I was about to die. Then we heard sirens outside. Distant but getting closer, both men froze. Panic flashed across their movements. They ran for the back door, slipping on wrapping paper as they fled. The door slammed shut behind them, leaving silence in its wake. We stood there shaking until the police arrived. The officers searched the house and yard but found no one. Later, they asked about the video camera. My dad rewound the tape. That's when we saw something none of us remembered. 20 minutes before the power went out, a shadow stood in the hallway behind us, watching us laugh, watching us open presents, waiting. We never celebrated Christmas the same way again. Even now, every Christmas Eve, I watch the doors, because I know how easily joy can turn into terror when you don't realize someone is already inside your home.